Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and this is how to make an RPG in Unity, and welcome to episode 11. So this episode we are going to look at finishing up our quest completely from start to finish. That requires us to do a couple of things at the beginning of the quest and a couple of things at the end. And we're also going to look at animating our weapon. So let's get started, shall we? So what we need to do is when we pick up this quest to begin with, this remains here. So our notice remains there and our exclamation mark remains bobbing up and down, as well as the trigger to collect. So let's remove all three of those to make it seem a bit more somewhat realistic. So to do that, what we need to do is go to our canvas and quest UI and accept button. And if you remember, we have this object here called quest button manager, which is this one right here. So we need to edit the script that's attached to this object, which is quest 001 buttons. So double click to open up in MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. And what we're going to do is create three more variables to add to this. And that's going to be the exclamation mark, the notice itself, and the trigger. So public game object. We'll call it X mark, because I believe that's the same name as what it's called in our hierarchy. Public game object, and next one is going to be the notice semicolon, and then public game object, call it notice trigger semicolon. So the first thing we need to do when we start this IEnumerator, so set quest GUI, before we actually set the text of anything, what we need to do is do X mark dot set active false semicolon, and then the same for the other two. The notice dot set active false and notice trigger dot set active is also false semicolon, and save. So the reason we do it on this one is because when we click on this, which is, let's find the object, it is notice trigger. When we click on this, we don't want it to disappear from this object, simply because we have the option to say, no, we don't want to accept the quest. We only want it to disappear if we do accept the quest. So let's set the variables. So notice trigger goes on notice trigger. The notice is quest 001 notice, which is a plane, and X mark is X mark. So now when we press play to test this theory out, we should be able to go over to our board, press E to read, and accept. And then you can see everything disappears as if nothing was there. So the next thing we need to do is do the final part of this quest. So I think the way we'll do this, we'll take the notice trigger, we'll hold control, press D to duplicate F2, and we'll call it complete trigger. And we'll go to quest 001 take. So if we click it here, you'll see it highlights yellow in the asset window. And on the script, hold control, press D to duplicate that script. You'll come up with an error at the bottom. Don't worry about that, we can resolve it. Let's change it from quest 001 take to quest 001 complete. So let's open it up in MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. And what we'll need to do is we'll need to change the public class name to match the actual script name. So instead of the word take there, we just need to put the word complete. It's important we do that because it just requires a lot of comprehension to kind of understand C#. JavaScript is a little bit different, but we won't really be dealing with JavaScript in this series. Like, you could have the same script name with something different and it wouldn't matter what was in the script. You just have to make sure the class name is the same as the script name. So quest 001 complete is going to be relatively the same. It's not going to be too different. There's just going to be a couple of things that we need to change. Firstly, we can get rid of notice cam because we don't actually need that. And that also means that we can get rid of it in the script itself because we're not going to be dealing with that extra camera that we have set up. But we do need to add some more variables. Public game object ex mark again. Now you may be wondering why we're having this again. What I want to do is, when we've picked up our sword, which was the third objective, I want that exclamation mark to appear back over the notice board to say, oh, there's something here, come and check it out. And that will be where we have this quest complete. So once we come over here and do quest complete, what we'll need to do is we can get rid of everything here, the screen, lock cursor, action display. We don't need any of that for now. So we can get rid of that. And we'll put x mark.set active false semicolon. The other thing we'll need to do is add in some experience, because if you remember, our quest says we get 100 experience for this. To do that, we need to create a global experience script. So let's quickly head back to Unity, into the scripts folder, right click, create C# script. Let's call it global exp. And open that one up. Let's get rid of void start and any notes. We don't need them right now. So we're going to have two variables. The first one is going to be a static variable. So public static int current exp semicolon. So the reason we're using static is because we want to reference this script from other scripts, because this one is going to contain our experience numbers. And we're also going to do public int internal exp. So the reason I do that is because when we have something set as static, we can't see it here in the inspector panel. But I always like to know visually what's going on. So in the update, all I do is internal exp equals current exp semicolon and save. So I'll explain a little bit more about how this is working now. If I go to game object, create empty, and right click, and let's rename this to global stat object. So this object is going to contain things like all our experience, our cache, things like that, and all kinds of different stats within the game. So let's drag and drop global exp onto there. Okay, it's saying there's an error. I think it's this quest 001 complete. We just need to save that first. That should disappear now. Yep, okay, so global exp onto there. And you can see it does only display that one variable, even though we have the two. As I say, it's just the way that static works. It doesn't display in the inspector panel. But this will update as the static variable does update. But we'll see later on in this tutorial. So once we've got our global experience in there, what we can do is in the quest 001 complete, we can then set global exp dot current exp plus equals 100 semicolon and save. So all this does is add 100 to whatever this is currently set at. So if your experience is currently 3000, it will make it 3100. So a couple of other things we have to do within here is void on mouse over, and if distance is less than or equal to 3, we need to make action text.get component and have an open spiky bracket, and then at the top we need to put using Unity engine.ui, because we're referencing a UI component here. Put the word text with a capital T and then open close bracket dot text equals, and then we'll make it say complete quest semicolon and save. And then the last thing we need to do in this complete script is to also get rid of any text on screen and then disable this game object. So we can do that by adding extra variable, public game object complete trigger semicolon. And then we need to do action display dot set active false, so that'll disable one UI element. Action text dot set active false semicolon, and then finally complete trigger dot set active is also false semicolon and save. So if you have any problems with any of these scripts that we're doing, you can head to the website, links in the description, head to downloads and assets, and you can download all the scripts there for free. So let's try this out. So complete trigger, we need to drag and drop from our quest folder, quest 001 complete, straight onto there. And at the moment we have both these quest 1 take, quest 1 complete. Neat little trick again. Earlier, like I said, if you select something in the inspector panel, it highlights it yellow. Same applies for any variables. So if we select action character, it highlights there in yellow. It makes things easier to see when we're dragging and dropping the variables. So UI quest, drag and drop. The player, which is FPS controller. We don't have the notice camera, remember, but we do have the EX mark, which is the exclamation mark. So we need to drag and drop that. And then the complete trigger, which is the object itself. Then finally, we need to remove this script, so remove component and disable the complete trigger object because we don't want it to be active as we start the quest. So now we put that into place, we need to go step back just a little and go to our objective 3, which was to take the sword, which is this object right here. So we need to go onto the script, which is Q001 objective 03, double click, and in MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. You can see here, I've already gone ahead because I was testing, but just to make things a bit quicker. The idea of what we're doing is we've got the EX mark added in. And you can see we've got public, game object, EX mark. So that's stating that one. And down here, we have setting it active is true. So when we take our sword, press the active button, we're setting the exclamation mark also as true. And the same applies for quest complete. So you need to add these two variables here to the quest 001 objective 03. So public, game object, quest complete, and X mark. And then set them both as active, in brackets true, down here. Void on mouse over, and if it press the button action, then we set them active and save that script. Then the idea is we then need to set quest complete as a variable and EX mark. So that object we've just done, the complete trigger, we need to drag and drop over here, and EX mark, drag and drop again. And let's save our scene. So hopefully, if we test this out now, we should be able to play the complete quest from start to finish. So let's press play and try it out. Let's head here, take our quest. Yes, we'll accept. And exclamation mark's gone. Everything is gone. So we've taken it as our objectives. So let's head over. So we know at this point, all three of the objectives work. So we're able to get to the clearing, able to open the chest, and we're able to take the sword. So let's open the chest. And let's take the sword. And now, hopefully, if we head back over here, we should be able to see the yellow exclamation mark hovering over the notice board, and it is. That's what we want to see. So if we go here, complete quest, and it's gone. So we've completed the quest. And at this point, we should hopefully be able to go to our global stat object and see that we have 100 experience points added to it. So everything in this quest is now working correctly. Now we've got that out of the way, let's take a quick look at the animation for the sword. So we've done simple animation before with this exclamation mark and with the chest. We're going to go a little bit more detailed now. So in our animations folder, right click, create, folder, weapon, anims. And let's go into there. Now let's find our sword. So FPS controller, first person character, and elven sword 01. I'm going to set it as active so we can see it. Let's focus in. Let's turn our camera around this way so we can see it a bit better. And let's remove the animator component from here. We don't need it right now. Right click, remove component. So what we'll do is we'll go to our animation tab with the elven sword 01 selected, and let's click create. Elven sword anim, and save. So now we need to press the record button. In some earlier versions of Unity, I think specifically 5.5 and below, this record button is probably automatically selected. In anything above, if you've got, well, anything above Unity 5.5, so that includes the yearly release is what I'm using now because I'm in 2017 on this one. Obviously, pretty soon we'll be using 2018, 2019 and so on. You just need to hit the record button. So frame 0, so if we hit 0, enter, we need to set whatever is set here. Best way to do this is retype over whatever's in position X. So if we click in there, 0.514, hit enter. So whatever you have in X, retype that and hit enter. It should turn the position red. That means that a keyframe has been set for position. And then rotation, we need to do, you can do pretty much the same. I'm going to go with a Z. I'm going to press 1, delete it, and then press 0. Hit enter again, and you can see rotation has also been set red. So it's also been set as a keyframe. So our first frame is going to reference this exactly. So I want this to kind of swing upwards slightly and then swing down quite fast. So what I'm going to do is by frame 10, so I'm going to type 10 in the frame number, hit enter. I'm going to bring the sword back slightly. I'm going to rotate it on the X, back ever so slightly, and then on the Y, ever so slightly again. And then I'm going to hit enter on that one. So if we select it and then just hit enter, it just makes sure it sets all that keyframe. Then by frame 18, I want the sword to be swung quite far down. So on frame 18, hit enter, and then let's rotate X downwards, Y outwards, and I'm going to bring the sword to a slightly different position on the Y. So I'll bring it down just a little, and Z outwards just a little more, and I think I need to swing it some more on the Z, about there, and a bit more on the Y, and a bit more on the X. And then click on your rotation X, just hit enter, just to make sure that keyframe is set. So then by frame 60, which is a second, hit enter, and then we need to revert it back to whatever we have here. So I know that the Z was set as 0. So let's type 0, Z, hit enter, and then we can click on this little option here to go to the first keyframe, and then type in 0 and hit enter. We can see that we need 514, so we can copy. So we select that, copy, go back to frame 60, and paste. Hit enter, then 0, enter. So the position on Z is 847, 0.847. So let's copy whatever's in Y, go to frame 60, paste it, and 0.847. And now let's set the rotation back to normal. So frame 0 again. So if we copy whatever's in X, 20.31, and we need to set Y as 11.72. So we put that in there, and then 11.72. And that's put it exactly back to what frame 1 was, the very, very first frame. And then we just hit the record button once again. Now, what we need to do is if we tick animator here, we should be able to see our sword in action. So I've just done this as quickly as possible just to make things look a bit better. If you need to modify how your animation is happening, make sure you have it selected, go back to animation, hit record, and then go to the frame where you need to change. So in this case, I need frame 18 to change. So frame 18, hit enter, and I'm going to bring the sword backwards a little. So I'm going to bring it to about there, and then press on there, hit enter, just to make sure that frame's set. Record again, and then let's press play and see how it is. Okay, so that's fine for now. As I say, I'm just doing this quickly just to make sure things work okay. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this animator component. Seems strange, but bear with me on this one. Remove the animator component, and then add component, and you can type in here, just like I've done, the word anim, and then you can select animation. Select the size to 1 because we currently only have one animation for this object, and then drag and drop this animation into where it says non-animation clip on both of them. Then we'll need to also change it to legacy. So drag and drop again. And you may see down here, it's giving you a warning already to say change it to legacy. So to do that, click on the animation, click up here on the menu button and click on debug, and then click legacy. Change it back to normal, and then change the wrap mode to once. Now what will happen here is it will play the animation just once. But it also gives us control of when we want to animate it ourselves. So we're in the game and we will have our left mouse button. It gives us control later on to say, right, let's animate this, let's attack. So we'll leave this episode there for now. You guys work on your animation, you get it looking how you want it to look. I say manage just quickly to get things moving. I want to save my scene. So next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to create that C# script, which allows us to swing our sword at a button press. We'll look at fade screens, we'll look at cutscenes, and we'll start a little bit of artistic UI. So we'll be using fonts as well to work a couple of things in there. So until that next episode, guys, thank you very much for watching.